never up here.
Let's push forward or something.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the second portion of tonight's meeting, Public Works Recreation Committee.
Start again. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to tonight's second portion of tonight's meeting, Public Works Recreation and Committee agenda. I am your chair, Councillor Trombetta. Notice to the public: all cell phones, PDAs, please be turned off. Any change in order of items on the agenda? Seeing none. Any disclosure of peculiar interests or conflict of interest? Seeing none. There are no appointments. Item number 5, anyone in the audience want to talk about anything on this agenda? Now is your time to come up and say anything. Sure, come forward. Please just state your name and your address for the record. I think we got that corner seat with the gray chair there. Is just got to talk into the mic so we can pick it up on the video.
My name is Kyle Hunter. I live at 40 Linden Street in Smithville. And I'm here to discuss item PW 32. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry. PW 3519, the request to amend Township special events policy that requires 2 police officers on site while liquor is being served and sold. As a former member of our West Lincoln Minor Hockey, men's non-contact hockey league, I'm here helping represent Tim Wall with this recommendation. We host an annual fundraising tournament the Saturday of the West Lincoln Parade, Santa Claus Parade. Traditionally, we would have Friday night hockey games, Saturday night hockey games, Sunday hockey games, and on the Saturday night we would have a party, like a stag and doe type party in the agricultural hall above the arena, and we would raise some pretty good money, $5,000 to $6,000 in that one night for the last 3 years, and generally it's gone to minor hockey and other local groups like Girl Guides or whatever for whatever they're going to be doing. With the new facility, which is awesome, this rule significantly impacts our ability to raise funds, and yes, we're looking for that to be amended. So a lot of work and effort goes into it, and it seems like an overkill deal to have 2 police officers there for that event. And when you look at the Grimsby and Lincoln rules for special events, they have thresholds for the number of people to even define it as a special event, which I don't think that we even reach. So maybe that's an option to put a threshold of, I think Lincoln's is 150, Grimsby's is 250 for a special event permit. And another one obviously is to change it from police to security services, which is less than half the cost of having the Niagara Regional Police there. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. This is coming up on the agenda a little later on, so yeah. I'm quite sure around the horseshoe we're going to have some discussion on this. Okay. So if you'd like to just stick around and hear that discussion, that would be great. If you can just have a copy of your presentation for our clerk, that would be great. If you have something written down, if you don't.
No, I don't really.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry, Mr. Wall, come on up. He said your name was Mr. Wall. He pointed, so I'm assuming.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought he pointed.
Hi, my name is Adam Hare. I live at 114 Golden Acres Drive in West Lincoln. I'm the president of the West Lincoln Minor Hockey Association, an executive member of the same men's league board that he's referring to, and a member of the West Niagara board. I'm also here to that exact same piece of business, more or less to piggyback on it from the perspective of the West Lincoln Minor Hockey and Niagara North Associations, in that we recently had a event, the Peach King game, come to our brand new arena, and we had Ice Dog game at the Fleming Center, and there's a pretty stark contrast involved in that. And in speaking with the president of the West Niagara Association, Simon Duong. He's also the owner of the Peach Kings. We've been trying to come up with ways to bring major events to our arena as fundraisers for our organizations, and one of the biggest problems with that is that we are not able to license the way that they would like to in order to generate the fundraising money that we need. Much to the same effect that we're talking about with the police officers, the security would be a pretty good amendment to that if we were able to change it. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that all these initiatives that we are trying to do, if we wanted to bring a Niagara Ice Dogs game to West Lincoln, it's a very viable option for us that can bring something really big to our community and raise a lot of funds for all of our organizations. Like Kyle said, with the men's league tournament that raises these funds, we have half-ice boards in our town specifically because of that one event. We couldn't have done it without that, and it was a big boon to our whole community, and all of these initiatives go towards that. And we have a lot of these great ideas that we'd like to be able to put forward, but unfortunately, a lot of them require some licensing in order to host the same kind of successful event. And it was really brought to light recently when we had the two events on consecutive weekends, where one of them had 80 people out, and that's kind of being generous. That's families from the teams that showed up. And the other one had hundreds of people. And realizing that there's some logistical issues in terms of where alcohol can be permitted and things like that. These are all things that I think can be reasonably sorted out, but some of the key factors in the laws as they stand seem to be against that, which is, it's not just necessarily Mr. Wall's initiative that we're backing, it's from West Niagara and from the West Lincoln Minor Hockey Association, because we'd really like to be able to continue to support our community. And we aren't, I don't think with the timelines the things they're working on that we could really do that in this coming season, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge amalgamating as it was, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball as it is. So we're trying to, do any sort of initiative we can to make it happen a little bit faster so that we can actually bring some nice events to this community this season.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for coming forward and stating those facts. Oh, sorry, can you just hold on? I think there's a question from...
Thank you for indulging me. Thank you for your presentation, both of you gentlemen. So we, as a municipality, and we sat around the table here mid last week, and one of the discussions that we had was a training session about our insurance policies and third-party liability and this whole new culture that we live in, where everybody's suing everybody. We've adopted this American-style lawsuit proliferation, and obviously municipalities are viewed as organizations with deep pockets, and so we're very suable. Mm-hmm. And so I just have a simple question. Is there an organization behind this tournament in particular, or is it like an ad hoc? Like, is it, so I hear that there's support for the minor hockey leagues. And there's support for these, there's fundraiser for this, but is there an organization that's behind this? And does that organization have a third-party liability insurance policy?
Yes. CARHA, C-A-R-H-A, is the official insurance company that works for the majority of recreational leagues in Ontario, but specifically our league. And they're a licensed underwritten insurance provider that we go through for all of our major tournaments and events.
Yeah, and then just a kind of a follow-up, CARHA representing the men's, it would be the men's non-contact
in that
hockey.
instance.
Yeah. Are they, like, do you have to report to them about, like, not all of your events are alcohol providing events, right? Like sometimes
Correct.
You just have a...
If we just had a strictly hockey tournament.
Yeah, so do you notify CARHA about this particular event, saying that you're serving alcohol at it? So I wonder if they are aware, like, do they increase a premium also for that? What we're trying to do is have like seamless accountability.
Mr. Merrick, just if I may interrupt, can we, I wanted to get to the recommendation and then we could bring this all forward instead of double.
Well, I just wanted to get a couple of questions
Because then
answered.
it's going to open up to the table to a lot of questions, which a lot of councillors are going to have. My feeling, if it's the consensus of council, maybe get through this real quick, because there's only a couple items, get to the item, and then we can bring this all up instead of having them sit down and then coming back again.
I just wanted to make sure I got my answers, just in case they did leave the room or had to leave the room, but...
I won't take off this time.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
No, then I'm gonna go with the chair and basically reserve that, but keep that tucked in the back of your mind, because I'm gonna be asking it then too.
And my fault, I should have maybe recommended we brought this forward at the beginning, and then we could have got
Yeah.
this over with, but, yeah, thank you, Counselor. And two seconds, we get through this agenda, gentlemen, and then we'll get to that item on the agenda, and we'll get you guys back up here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving
Quickly,
quickly.
item P, W 32-19, West Lincoln Public Library, sorry, this is consent agenda items, West Lincoln Public Library Board meeting minutes, special August 1st, 2019. Information report RFI PW 18, 2019 Harvest Routes, 2019 event update, recommendation report RFD PW P15, 2019 road widening condition of consent of 7612 concession 2 road land transfer declaration as public highway file number BO2 2019-West Lincoln. I need a mover and a seconder for this item. Councilor Riley, Councilor Gann, all those in favor? And that's carried. There's no communications. We'll move on to number 8, amendment to budget, project manager Reva Shaw, and director of public works, recreation Mike DePaula, recommendation report RFD PW 16, 2019, road reconstruction of regional road 20, budget amendment, that report RFD PW 16, 2019, road reconstruction of regional road 20, budget amendment dated September 16, 2019, be received, and that council hereby approves the redistribution of funds for the road reconstruction of Regional Road 20 as shown in Appendix B. I need a mover. Councilor Yonker, Councilor Gann. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Moving on, PW 34-19, Public Works Supervisor Trey Benish, and Director of Public Works Recreation, Mr. Paula, recommendation report RFD PW 17, 2019, the 2019 hot mix repair tender authorization report that RFD PW 17, 2019. Read the 2019 hot mix spot repair tender authorization dated September 16, 2019 be received, and that council accept the tender submission by Circle Paving for the paving of the spot repairs in the amount of $175,210 plus HST, and that council approved the project budget in the total amount of $175,210 plus HST, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter in an agreement with Circle P Paving. I need a mover. Mr. Mayor, Councilor Gann, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and now we're at this item we were discussing earlier. Item PW 3519, Mayor Bylsma, this forward, request to amend the Township Special Events Policy, Policy Recreation 03-2010, requirement for 2 police officers on site while liquor is being served or sold. The recommendation that the request received by Mr. Tim Wall to amend item 4 under the alcohol section of the Township Special Event Policy, being Policy Recreation 03-210, as amended, which requires a minimum of 2 paid police officers shall be on site at all times while liquor is being served or sold, and for a period of 1 hour after, be amended by removing the words police officers and replacing them with the words security officers from a certified security firm. Be received and referred to staff for investigation and report back to a future Public Works, Recreation, and Arena Committee meeting. I need a mover. Mr. Mayor, seconded by Councilor Gann. Comments or questions? Now we have the floor. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Mr. Tim Wall, who's one of the organizers also in this tournament, approached me. So we have this new West Lincoln Community Center. We discussed some of these, there's this unfolding of our policy set, and some of that we adopted from the old and brought it forward from the old arena and the associated party rooms and extra facilities that it had into our new one. Basically, the bone of contention was police officers, but it raised the kind of the issue of are we being consistent? We did a thorough analysis of our fee structure when the West Lincoln Community Center came in, and made amendments to our old arena fee structure to represent, you know, the fact that we had a gymnasium and we had these all these other rooms available, and so I thought it was very appropriate to have this policy reviewed, but in particular this idea of having 2 police officers. Generally speaking, my understanding is that's a cost of about $1,500 for an event. I don't know exactly how long that was, but I think that was for 4 hours. But I could stand corrected. A certified security firm, so basically one that's bonded and has their own third-party liability and all that, of course, protected. So not just Biff and Bob from the nether regions of, I'm not going to say the police.
We get your point.
Somebody, a credible organization, there's some cost savings there. I think the presenters made it, I think, fairly accurate that it would be a little bit, like close to half the cost. Of course, so my concern was simply that we review the whole policy. That obviously there may be room for compromise in there, depending on the size, the scope, the logistics that are involved in a particular event. And I know that this is not the first organization that has used the facility and complained about you know, kind of the expensive nature of this particular item. There has been another one that's come forward, so I thought it'd be really appropriate to have a discussion on it, to lead out with some commentary by council, send it back to staff, and have a review of that for the purposes of attracting events to this to our new facility. So that's the impetus behind this. I have no personal stake in this one in particular, but perhaps somewhere down the road, I'd like to have an
Okay.
event there too, or something. And I think it would
I
be nice
think,
to have
thank you,
consistent.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments. I think members around the table would like to discuss this, so if I'm going to start to my right and work my way back, if that's okay, if everybody wants to speak. If they don't, then I'll just start with you, Councillor Cody.
I'm a little torn about
Because
this
they
in
raised
that
their hands first.
I'm pretty familiar with the hockey community, and I feel that there's a specific group of people who would do very well in policing themselves. If something were to happen at an event, you would have multiple people willing to step in, and in that situation, I feel security guards would be enough. However, we're in a unique location here in West Lincoln, and if there ever was an incident and all we had was security, how long before we could have police officers arrive? We have to consider that, as opposed to Grimsby or St. Catharines or somewhere where there's more officers readily available. So I feel like the fact that this applies to every event, not just hockey events, like I'm torn on this, because I think police officers are overkill for some events, but maybe not for others. So
Okay, those are, yep, we'll, quite sure you may, if you want to come back to Councillor Cody with more discussion. Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I think that your concern about do we need police officers versus security can be looked at with numbers, right? So if we have a group that has, you know, hey, we got 500 people that want to party in your arena, is gonna be a lot different than we have 100 people or we have 50 people, right? So, I think my concern with this whole issue is we need actually to, there's a bigger issue here with the alcohol policy that we need to look at and get figured out with our arena. And I think that's what we need our staff to really look at, compare what other arenas have. Like, we do have a beautiful facility here, and we're basically learning, oh wow, we missed this. We missed the boat on this, and that's one thing that we need to get our staff to look at and come back to council and say, hey, this is what we've looked at, St. Catharines, Pelham, Fonthill, whatever their arenas are, because yeah, we do want these kind of things in our arena, right? We don't want to have a big drunken fest, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily happen, but we do want to have these tournaments where people are going, wow, that's a great place to be, and we can have a couple drinks after or whatever, right? So where can we serve it? What rooms? We got a lot of stuff that we need to figure out. So I think this is going to be a little tougher than saying, yeah, let's just drop the 2 police for this one. I think what we have to do is figure out a lot of stuff before we can say we're good with this, which we need, and that might take a bit of time. So.
Thank you, Councillor Jonker, for those comments. Councillor Ganan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, our insurance representatives that were here did quite clearly point out to us, though, that we were in the minority of municipalities requiring 2 police officers, and felt that most. So, in answer to you, Councillor Cody, since you were not there, it was clearly pointed out that, I mean, there have to be guidelines, of course, but that generally speaking, people who are professionals in that capacity could do the job without it being entering into the police union aspect of the whole thing and how much they needed to be paid. So I think I feel very comfortable with this the way it is. I think there's more work. I agree. More work needs to be done as we send it back. But it was a good couple of hours where we listened to insurance, and then thought about it afterwards. So one of the questions, if I could, through you, Mr. Chair, just to Adam and Kyle, the question that the mayor was asking earlier alluded to the fact that our insurance representative said that the people who, so either of you, coming in and wanting to do that, really needed to check and make sure that their own insurance covered an alcohol event. So apparently her concern was that your insurance needs to know that this is not just a regular tournament, which is where the mayor was going with that, with kids and parents and whatever, sort of looking at the safety aspect of it. But now you were looking at something where alcohol was being served. So it was more protection for you as well as protecting the township, because your insurance would be the payer if something happened that was connected to the alcohol event, whereas the assumption is that the township would do that. So not having that, they also pointed out that there is a way through the township to purchase additional insurance with or without alcohol. And so, that might be another consideration. If your insurance policy, when you look at it, says, no, we can't do that, then there is another rider that can be used. Kyle, sorry.
In the past, we have accessed that additional township insurance.
Okay, so you are well aware that that's there for you. Good. Okay.
Can you guys come up, because
Yeah.
it records, so we're going to
So as that's being recorded, your answer to my question wouldn't have been recorded. So you may as well both come on up.
For previous events, we have accessed that additional township insurance.
Okay, great. So
For an event that has alcohol. Yes.
all right. So I was again making sure that you were obviously aware of that. So good. Okay, thank you.
Is there a problem over there, Councillor? You're gonna get your turn. Is there a problem? I hear a lot of muffle over there. Well, the councillor asked for a question to be answered, and I approved it. So I don't think there's a problem. Councillor Riley, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I'm happy to see actually this come forward. Considering this policy is almost 10 years old, I think it's always good housekeeping to kind of go through it to begin with. And considering our current new facility, it obviously needs some TLC. But that being said, it's already been said, I guess, but I think it's important that we kind of exercise all options, because my concern would be I guess without understanding what each event is, and I think it was mentioned earlier by one of the gentlemen, maybe having like a threshold when you're expecting X amount of people, maybe that's when you require police. But considering how little police protection we do have, it's easy for people to start bringing in their own booze and liquor, and they're having in their own parking lot, and they're not necessarily buying it through wherever the beer tent is or whatever the facility is. So that would be my biggest concern about the whole thing, is how is that monitored? Is a couple security guards sufficient in understanding like what their capabilities are? Because from my general understanding of security guards, they're there to observe and report. So again, having I guess, a better understanding of what these certified security firms include, whether it's, they're handcuff certified, or if it's honestly just enough to kick somebody out. And if they kick somebody out, are they now, because they're over intoxicated, getting in their cars and now driving through our community, where if a police officer was there, they would be apprehending them and calling in probably another car, squad car, to take them away. So again, there's a couple of different things I think we need to really look through here. The other question I have, and I'm not even too sure where to direct it, so maybe I'll go to, so through you, Mr. Chair, to the Director of Public Works, Mr. Paula. I'm assuming this goes without saying, but I'm going to ask anyways. When someone goes and books a portion of the facility, is there always staff on site?
Okay, through the chairman to Councillor Riley, I guess it depends what the event is. And that's another thing that needs to be considered as part of this. I just like to add, like, we have a special events policy, and there's a section there about alcohol, and there's like, 6 or 7 criteria, one of them being police officers, right? But what most municipalities have is a municipal alcohol policy. So that's a good point. Like, everyone made a lot of good points today, and staffing levels needs to be considered. If you're holding an alcohol event with 200 people, we need to have a municipal alcohol policy that basically lays out roles, responsibilities. Where do we want alcohol to be served in our government facilities? Like, there's a lot of big questions here. And depending on the amount of people, then maybe staffing levels may be required, and then maybe the user fees would have to be changed. If there's 200 people renting, 200 people attending a Stag and Doe and they're serving alcohol, well, maybe we need 3 or 4 staff members just to make sure that our municipal alcohol policy is being followed. So there is a lot to think about. Unfortunately, we're not that far along. My suggestion would be, council is undertaking their strategic plan this year. Maybe the Hockey Association, minor hockey and men's league hockey could be a stakeholder, and we have a lot of questions to answer. Do we want to serve alcohol in our community center? Do we want to serve it in the library? Do we want alcohol in the bathrooms? Do we want alcohols in the lobby? These are all things that get laid out in the municipal alcohol policy, which we don't have. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, it does. Thank you. And well said, because I think that's an important component of this, because again, that's going to be our extra eyes and ears and more or less tools that are going to be able to help us kind of control that manner. Because it's a huge facility, as you gentlemen have seen, as everyone's seen, and so again, there's easy places for people to go, and obviously, we want people, we trust that people are going to be responsible. But at the same time, there's always that 1 or 2 that kind of think they're above the rules. So again, I'm not against this by any component. I just want to make sure before we move forward with this that we've done enough research and investigation and gotten enough feedback, even from the public, to make sure that this is, kind of, it's open to all, but at the same time protects the community. I also think it's the more we can kind of help make this easier is obviously going to make the facility more accessible to everybody, and that's something we want to do too. So, as I mentioned, Stag and Does or other birthday parties or whatever the occasion is. It's definitely not as easy, because I know myself, my brother just had his Stag and Doe, and we had to go through quite a few hoops just to get that organized. And in the end, they end up, the facility ended up providing all the alcohol and the smart servers and whole 9 yards, and took on all the responsibility. But that came at a cost too. So again, I think I'm happy to see that's going to staff, and I look forward to seeing what the recommendation is in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, anything else? Nope. Councillor Rayner? Your microphone, Councillor. Thank you.
So why not just let them do that, and all this discussion can come afterwards? Everybody's got an opinion, so the opinion doesn't matter if you're going to let staff do the investigation. So you're just wasting time. Get it to staff, see what their results are, then have a discussion if you agree or disagree with the staff, or you want to modify it. But if you're not even giving the staff a chance right now, we're just blowing smoke.
Just putting their comments in as councillors. Thank you, Councillor. Do you have something else to add, Councillor Yonker?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to.
As chair, I allow comments. No problem.
Okay, for you, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
I think what we also have to remember is if having alcohol served at a facility does not mean that there's going to be more alcohol in the parking lot or coming out of a trunk. It actually is quite reversed. If you want to have an event where people want to have a drink and you serve it in a building and have it controlled, it's going to take it out of the parking lot and keep it in that controlled facility. So to say, you know, if we allow alcohol at this facility, we're going to have more problems out in the parking lot. That's actually not the case. It's actually reversed. If you have it controlled in the building, you take it out of the parking lot and put it where it belongs. So that's what you got to also consider, right?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jonker. If everybody's done, I'll have a few comments to make. Just so the two presenters do know that tonight, this is coming, it's getting sent back to staff, so no real decision is going to be made on this. This is getting sent back to staff to figure out, well, obviously we have a lot of comments and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. But I want to thank you for bringing this forward. Again, the questions that need to be answered are, you know, it's not just setting the precedents for you guys, it's going to set the precedents for the future and what's to come. You guys obviously have a good establishment, a good organization, but there's always that bad apple that can take that same policy and ruin it for everybody. And we don't want that to happen. So again, we're going to have to send this to staff and come up with some strategic ways to, eliminate the person walking around the facility with a bottle of beer or whatever the case may be. We need to have it in a controlled environment and be placed to where it's got to be placed, and hopefully have, like you said, you know, the Ice Dogs come for an event and generate some revenue, right? I play hockey, and I'm in a league with the guys, and I'm not a good skater, but I still play hockey. But you know, there is some alcohol at these facilities, but it's confined to an area. It's, you know, the restaurant in the rink, and it doesn't go past that, and it's controlled. So we don't have that, and like I said, it's going to have to go back to staff, and we're going to have to take a look and come up with some strategic ways to actually set the precedents for the future, because like you said, it's a nice facility, and I think people are getting that idea and bringing it forward to, you know, hey, this got so much potential, we can do some good things here. So but we just want to get everything in check. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming tonight and presenting. I guess if there's any more further debate, I'd call the vote. All those in favor of sending this to staff? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to item PW 36. Members of council, any business of an informative nature? Councillor Cody, Councillor Jonker, Councillor Gannan, Councillor Riley, Mr. Mayor. No, not actually. Okay, Councillor Rayner. Councillor Rayner. I have a few. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Jonker.
I just thought I'd let everybody know and the public know that, so it's not a shock for you when tomorrow you see signs up with my name. I've put my name forward to run as in the federal election for the Christian Heritage Party, so I just thought I'd let you know that, so that tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening, you're not shocked, but we'll see where that goes.
Well,
thank you.
Congratulations for putting your name in the hat, Councillor Jonker. I have a few. I guess it's not really, it's just some comments. I'd like to say, I've driven down 16 Road. The tar and chip has been completed there. I'd like to say that's how, through myself to you, Mr. Director, that's how tar and chip should be done. I think the job that was just rolled out is a job well done. I've driven that stretch of road, and it's not a washboard. I'd like to say the contractor did a good job and in a timely fashion. They were in and they were out, and the road looks good, and I'd like to say a good job on that. Also, to Mr. Director, you mentioned before about, I was talking good about Ward 2, but let's go back to Ward 1 and the stretch that was from last year. They said that was going to be looked at after summer, and then we're going to decide on if it fixes itself or not. What's the status on that?
Okay, through the chairman, we met with the contractor middle of August, because that was kind of the timeline where we said, if you remember correctly, if you go back, the contractor felt that the traffic and the hot weather would correct
That
itself.
was the statements like
right.
that.
So the time came, August 15th. We went out there, had a look. We drove the section of 20 Road, and it obviously didn't correct itself. So they are going to scarify the surface to remove the washboarding, regrade, repack the granular, and then apply the double surface treatment layer once again on their dime. I tried to get a hold of the contractor this week, and I did get in touch with them before tonight's meeting, and they plan to call me sometime this week. They're just trying to schedule their crews to do the work. So hopefully the next couple weeks that Area 20 road will get corrected.
That's great. That's great news. Oh, you have a comment, Councillor. Go. Your microphone, please.
I can't believe that we were gullible enough to accept the fact that the road would correct itself. I mean, this guy should have tried to sell somebody a bridge. This guy's in the wrong business. I've never heard of anything correcting itself.
I have to interject here, Mr. Chair. Is this a debate, or are we in the part where we're supposed to be speaking about informative natures? Because I feel like we just tiptoed into discussing business and two people are talking on one particular thing here.
Hold
So
on,
if you could just clarify,
hold on
thank
a
you.
second, Councillor Riley. So
We patiently waited.
Councillor, hold on. Let me just weigh in here. Councillor Riley has point. We're not getting into a debate. It was just comments that we were making, that I'd made on, and finding out in, like, other business of informative nature, what is happening when it's rolling out. So if
Okay.
you can get to your comments.
So I'll get to my comments. So Councillor Trebetta, were you shocked when this road miraculously did not fix itself?
Councillor,
That's yes or no. That's all.
No, Councillor. I'm not the. I'm not the. I'm not the. I'm not the.
Happy with the way it fixed
Councillor,
itself? Or
I'm
you
not the.
unhappy?
I'm not the judge and jury here.
But this is ridiculous.
This
It
goes
should
to.
have been fixed
This goes
initially. It
to.
was never gonna fix
Councillor,
itself.
you're out
This
of
was a
order.
bunch of crap.
You're out of order. Councillor,
I'm not out of order.
this.
I'm being accurate, and everybody who
No,
watches this
you're out
is
of
gonna
order,
say that
Councillor.
road was a
This goes to our
disaster. It should have been
director.
redone immediately.
Councillor, this goes to our director. Our director has a policy to follow. The contractor came back, knew it was deficient, and now he's fixing. And now he's fixing his deficiency according to our director. What don't you get?
That the people had to drive on it for the last
Well,
year. They
we're
were
getting it
bounced all over the
rectified.
place when it should have been fixed right away because it was a mess from the beginning, and right away the next week it should have been corrected.
I'm glad
not
for your
let go a
comments,
year.
Councillor, but you're being out of order. It's getting rectified.
All right,
okay.
do it whenever you want.
Thank you, I will. Anyways. It's getting fixed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Director, for giving me those updates. Sorry for the rebuttal that we had here, but
Nothing personal against the director. This had nothing to do with the director.
so it's personal to me?
Well, if you want to take it that way, that's fine.
Sure, no problem.
Shoulders where?
I got big shoulders,
I'm just saying
Councillor.
that they should have went there
Anyways,
first.
we're going to move on. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on now. Anyways, Councillor, calm down. Anyways, sorry for bringing that up. You know, new business. Anybody with any new business? Any confidential matters? There's none. I adjourn this meeting, thankfully, at 8:23. Good night. Good night, Councillor.